The world has taken notice of general elections in India right from its first edition in 1951-1952, with democracy being adopted in various countries. The demand for holding smooth and blameless elections is on the rise. Simultaneously, the Election Commission of India has reached out to the world through study and observation missions, participation in overseas exhibitions and conferences, exchange tours and participation of foreign delegates in several events hosted by the Election Commission of India. Election Commission of India hosted the first ever international conference on voter education on October 2016, which witnessed participation by election management bodies of 25 countries from 6 continents besides renowned organizations like UNDP, International IDEA, IFES and Malaysian Commonwealth Studies Centre. The delegates from around 25 countries arrived in New Delhi and welcomed by ECI senior officers. The best practices adopted during elections in India and in the participating countries were on display in the exhibition hall, which was inaugurated by CEC Dr. Naseem Zaidi.
On behalf of Election Commission of India and UNDP, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome election management bodies from 25 countries. Ladies and gentlemen.
There is always the need to want to learn, to see how it's done in a country that has been, organizing electoral processes and institutions in such a magnitude that it's very unique, but it also offers numerous good examples that I think many of us can learn from.
Whatever efforts we have been doing for voter education till now, in fact, should have been done yesterday. We should apply our minds to find ways, innovations, to ensure that voter education achieves different dimensions slowly but surely, to ensure that participation is inclusive, informed and ethical.
The voter is the central point of the electoral framework, and every voter must be thoroughly aware and educated about the electoral processes and procedures so as to ensure his or her informed and ethical participation. In any democracy, the government draws their legitimacy from the people through their voting preferences. Thus, free, fair and participative elections are the very foundation of the democracies.
I am happy to note that the participating EMBs represent a mix of older and stable democracies and the younger and emerging ones. This conference under this roof represents 2.87 billion population and 1.87 billion voters of the world. And this phenomenal representation, comprising nearly 40% of the world's population under a single roof, bears testimony to the importance of the conference on the world stage and also the huge importance that EMBs attach to voter education.
The main barriers which I've tried to identify are the legal and procedural bottlenecks and barriers for both for registration as well as for voting. Here we have outlined 4 key areas for the conference, which are the inclusive electoral literacy in the area of formal and informal education, use of ICT, promoting informed choice, and the ethical voting.
A very good morning, and thank you all for your presence. Thank you very much, sir.
We begin with our technical session 1 on electoral literacy informal education.
We're going to have a quick look at the youth voter turnout in Canada and certainly the trend over time, which is very important as well. and teaching democracy, how it is done in Canada, and how we can integrate civic education in that.
The evaluation of the authoritative, independent, international and local organizations, as well as the data of public opinion research has proved that voter civic education appears to be the element of a crucial importance for increasing electoral awareness, voter turnout, and the credibility towards the electoral process.
The companies required to adjust for different activities of the society as a future citizen should be given by and large to the education. We are mainly focusing on the formal education in school and tertiary education sector.
It's basically there to allow schools to learn about the electoral system, to download guides, to create ballot papers, and to use the system to run elections within their schools.
We mostly do this through educating college students and educating high school students to participate in the process itself. I think education is the key to a successful relationship in terms of elections.
There are three dimensions of electoral literacy when we talk in the context of schools. First one is knowledge, where we talk about the facts and ideas of democracy, citizenship, the government, and global concerns that students need to know. Then we talk about skill, the ability to navigate the rules and processes of citizenship and governance in our society, a kind of critical engagement. And then the value, which is the democratic ideals and commitment to those ideals that motivate civic commitment.
Our session 2, Inclusive Electoral Literacy through Informal Education Channels.
We make a program KPU, a General Election of Commission, goes to campus. Voter with disability, we made parallel template ballot paper, technical guidance for accessible polling station for voters with disability, and then voter education for people with disability.
About voter education needed for Myanmar, voter education developed by the UEC included of voter rights and responsibility, how to vote, electoral system, government system, voter registration, transparency, credibility, and impartiality of the election.
Different resource manuals have been developed. Trainings to deaf citizens, disabled persons, women, and minorities have been focused.
We have a number of projects involving people with disabilities, the youth and other marginalized communities, and we ensure full participation of these groups through our mainstreaming project. We are actually the first country in Africa to have introduced the electronic voting machine.
ECP, Election Commission of Pakistan, is changing its focus from voter information now to the electoral education. By now, we have developed another phase of that voter education program, that is civic and voter education, based on political dynamics and psychological dynamics.
Comme étant donc première en Afrique concernant l'intégrité des élections, première dans le monde arabe et 27e dans le monde. Et nous avons également aussi reçu donc cette année le prix Joe Baxter. Donc je tenais juste à rappeler ceci parce que pour une démocratie naissante, ceci est un réel et un vrai succès.
International IDEA in Nepal works mostly, a little bit in the two blue boxes, but mostly in the brown boxes, training and interactive programs. We work with the International Election, the Election Commission of Nepal to deliver voter education through trainings, and we work with other organizations to hold interactive programs.
Our focus is always on the people of India, and there are two aspects of our preamble which are very important. Article 14, which gives us equality before law, and Article 15 of the Constitution prohibits any kind of discrimination.
The delegates called on the Honorable President of India, Shri Pranab Mukherjee, at Rashtrapati Bhavan.
We begin with session 3 on enhancement of participation by special categories.
An elector can register as an overseas voter 3 months prior to leaving from the country and up to 3 years after they have left. They are then registered for a 6-year period until they return to Australia or they decide to re-register and continue to live overseas.
The special categories in Iraq are, number 1, Iraqis vote abroad. IHEC is developing an integrated educational program to educate voters abroad on how to exercise the voting process to ensure that they vote properly.
The Commission realized the need to train different groups of stakeholders, such as the Defense Ministry, personnel.
First of all, what we need to do is tell people residing abroad that they have a right. First was the right, or recognizing the right of women to vote. We recognized the third wave, which was tens of millions of people, the right to vote from abroad.
U.S. military and overseas voters have a unique law in the United States called the Uniform Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act.
Elections serve a different purpose. They're not just there just to elect, they are to give, to sort of remove obstacles for people from exercising this fundamental human right. Democracies become stronger because they prioritize inclusion. So when we talk about the rights of people with disabilities to vote, the rights of women to vote, ethnic and religious minorities to vote, this is not something that is being accommodated. This is how democracies become strong.
We're talking today about the special category of voters. I would also like to bring to your notice another category which we call polling personnel. They are extended the right or the facility to vote through postal ballot and also through EDC, which is called the Election Duty Certificate. Prior to 2014, the turnout even in this category was dismal. So the Commission took sustained initiatives before the Lok Sabha elections to at least get this segment to vote systematically.
Now we begin with technical session 4, role of information and communication technology for voter education and feedback.
We were looking for ways to enhance the voting experience. We were trying to be voter-centric in the way we did things. So we looked out for the comfort and convenience of the voter, firmly believing that if there is a high voter turnout, that will enhance the mandate of the people who are elected.
I'm from Fiji, and it's a snap-on band, and it's part of our awareness platform.
And on elections, we support some 65 countries per year, providing electoral assistance in various areas, whether we provide support throughout the electoral cycle, so a full comprehensive project, a capacity building project, or constitutional reform, or if we work with a civil society on enhancing voter education.
Election Commission of India was the first EMB to go in a big way for use of IT in introducing the EVMs, election voting machines, more than 3 decades ago. And now it's a very well-established practice in India, and we are now going a quantum leap ahead.
I just kept a QR code on your table. I think it's there a QR code. You can just scan it with your phone, and you can give a feedback on this conference instead of filling a paper form.
Session 5, Voter Education for Informed and Ethical Voting.
The Department of Public Outreach at the IEC is responsible for planning, implementing, and monitoring of voter information campaigns. 82% of Afghans continue to consider elections to be a good thing, and this is a very good news for us.
We have a solid legal framework to protect the right to vote without discrimination. We have a trustful registration process. We spend large amounts of human and economic resources to guarantee the fairness of the electoral process.
We have developed a voter education curriculum, a training manual, and also handbooks to guide the Commission and its partners.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share on three areas today. First, on unregistered qualified electors. Second, on election campaign. And thirdly, on voter turnout.
We have developed 4 modules for civic education, which is democracy, rights and roles and responsibilities, as well as the citizens.
Since 1976, we've had free education in Mauritius from the pre-primary level to the tertiary level. So that explains our literacy rate in Mauritius is over 90%.
The center is attributed for proceeding and activity by strong citizens in order to promote and develop democracy in their own village and sub-district.
The legal basis for voter education in Uganda is also in the law, and it's stipulated in the commission, in the constitution. And this same constitution gives the power to the people to decide on who shall govern them and how they shall be governed.
I will focus this short presentation on the challenge of registering partition refugees on the electoral roll. World event being what they are, the question of how to enroll millions of refugees and displaced persons bears relevance to challenges that some election management bodies face in our time.
Here I would like to show you a very, very special thing. I think it is a unique innovation in the world, where we started a pledge by the candidates. This is a pledge, the citizen of India having faith in democracy, hereby pledge to vote ethically, upholding the democratic tradition of my country and the dignity of the free, fair and peaceful election. I promise to vote in this election honestly, fearlessly, without taking money and without being influenced by any undue inducement.
I would like to request Dr. Naseem Zaidi to kindly release the conference reader.
Lot has been said by the EMBs. Lot has been, learned by us. I think all of us are much, much wiser after the 2 days deliberation, and we have learned a lot of good practices, innovations, and we need to definitely share with each other, learn with others.
Serious issue that confronts all of us, poses a major problem today to all of us, is a good governance. And how do you get a good governance? To get a good governance of any country, especially in the context of our Asian country, African country, even some of the Oceania, Australia, Pacific countries, the good governance is nothing but how you deliver the certain services to the community, to the citizen of a country by the government.
There are so many takeaways. I was just wondering if you would like to compile the best ideas which have emerged out of this. The people on the dais have a good point, but I'm sure the people in the hall will have also many things to contribute. Within a time-bound period, say 2, 3, 4 weeks, if some document comes out of this, this will be very educative for the rest of the world too.
This is a draft declaration which is actually based on prevalent practices. As we have emphasized throughout 2 days deliberation that voter is the central actor in the entire electoral democracy process, and we have also realized that there is a need for not only greater awareness amongst population, but also the need for a voter education, and probably voter education would result in improving the participation in elections. And the conference also takes note of the fact that the conference is very appreciative that a large number of EMBs have already undertaken voter education program under their mandate, under legal framework or without the legal framework. And therefore, it was thought that the conference could possibly resolve to give you a broad architecture, a broad framework, a framework of suggestive kind of guidelines which each EMB can follow and utilize this as a document under their mandate and to pursue it in a very systematic and institutional structure.
Voter Information, Communication and Education Network, Voice.net, a global knowledge network, was launched as a part of New Delhi Declaration.
It has been an honor and privilege for UNDP to partner with the Election Commission of India on sharing best practices in election management amongst countries.
A very good evening to all of you. I am again standing before you after 2 days conference. I think this has been one of the most productive conference that I have also attended in my long career. This was the most unique occasion when the conference was able to bring the subject of voter education to its rightful place. And I would also like to wish all of you a very, very safe journey back home to have time with your families. Thank you very much.
Sir said it all, but I'll give a formal vote of thanks now. It's truly an honor to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the international delegates from election management bodies, experts from institutes and organizations working in the field of democracy and elections.
A local sightseeing tour was organized for the visiting dignitaries, visiting some of the best-known monuments of the city. The conference may have formally ended, but the inter-exchange of ideas on voter education would continue globally through the Voice.net portal, and the pursuit of knowledge shall continue ahead in future.